Well, there is a lot of back and forth whether the SnyderVerse is going to be returning or not. And, well, where is this all coming from? Well, we do know that the outlet, we'll call them an outlet, we'll be fair, Cosmic Book News is saying, oh, it's all but certain. But let's be real here. Honestly, let's be a little real here. Cosmic Book News doesn't really have all the facts. They don't. But let's play their little game here. Let's play their game. Let's play the SnyderVerse fandom's game. Because sure, the SnyderVerse could return, but not necessarily the way that you or they think. So over at SlavsFreeTalk.com, you can check out my article, and I break it all down real nice and easy for you all to understand. Look, anything can happen when it comes to Hollywood, because anything's possible. Like, Hollywood does some crazy things sometimes. We're hearing these rumors that we're looking at Arab nations possibly backing either Paramount or Comcast to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. That is something that a lot of us didn't see happening in Hollywood, but it's a possibility. That's wild. We see reboots all the time of timeless classics. We see animated films getting turned into live action. We see things constantly happen that honestly shouldn't happen, but do end up happening. Yes, I sit there all the time and say the SnyderVerse isn't going to be restored because I do not see a legitimate pathway to it being restored. I don't. I know that a lot of people will sit there and say, well, you have to have hope. You have to have hope. As much hope as you want to have, when there's no true pathway to it happening, your hope can just be as reliable as a dog's fart in the wind. It doesn't matter. So when I sit there and say it's not happening, it's because I see no pathway. Does that mean I don't want to see it? No, I do want to see it. I would love to see the rest of the story, but not at the expense of another artist's work. Not at the expense of the DCU. Not at the expense of Matt Reeves' The Batman series. Look, I may not be a fan of what Matt Reeves is doing, but I don't want to see it at the expense of what he's doing. So when I sit here and say it's not happening, it's not because I don't want to see it. It's because I don't see how it can happen. And if it does happen, I don't want to see it happen because they're going to get rid of James Gunn's work. Because I think that's wrong. I think it's ridiculous. It negates everything that the fandom stood for just a few years ago. But if it did happen, it's not going to be because David Ellison is buying Warner Brothers to do so. It's not going to be because these Arab nations are giving Ellison $7 billion each to buy Warner Brothers. That's not their goal, is to pay $7 billion to then spend a few $100 million to see 2 movies finished. Like, that's not what they're doing. Do you understand how wild that sounds?
That is without a doubt the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
No company on earth is going to bid on Warner Brothers because they want Zack Snyder's 5-film arc to be completed. Not a single one. Then you have to think, 2 different ownerships, AT&T and Discovery's ownership, have passed on it. When you look at it, both of those ownerships had the ability to sit down and say, okay, what is the best viable option when it comes to profitability? What is the best viable option for longevity for the brand? Longevity and profitability for the DC brand. Neither one of them said, it's what Zack Snyder was making. There's no conspiracy that AT&T was against Zack Snyder. There's no conspiracy that David Zaslav was against Zack Snyder. I know a lot of people want to say there is, but there's not. There was no conspiracy against him from either one of those ownerships. Not AT&T and not Discovery. And that's the reality. So if a future buyer does end up making this SnyderVerse, the last 2 films or 1 film or whatever it is, it won't be because of your hashtags. It's not going to be because of wishful thinking. It won't be because this time it's different. It will be because they believe that there's money to be made. Because it all comes down to money. Money. Profitability and longevity of that profitability. That's what it'll come down to. And the new ownership will have the same information that the last two ownerships had. And they'll be able to take a look and see what they looked at. And they'll be able to sit there and say, well, is this worth it? Is it worth it? But we have these insiders, and they're saying, oh, it's already restored. Some are even like delusional to say, oh, it's restored already, but you're not going to know until December. Well, hold your horses, people, because nobody knows anything. Not the fans, not these scoopers, not YouTubers, not insiders. Hell, David Zaslav doesn't even know anything. Zack Snyder doesn't know anything. There is no sale that is completed right now. There's no pen to paper. There's no signature anywhere. Nothing. And yet somehow we're seeing the same cycle that we saw from 2020 to 2021, where grifters are posting vague social media posts, and some not so vague, with conveniently timed insider teases about the SnyderVerse. Do you remember how all of you got burned then? I do. I remember how we got burned. We were all excited. Ben Affleck's Batman is already in pre-production, and there's a Cyborg movie and a Deathstroke movie, and this is happening, that's happening, this is happening. All these things were happening because these scoopers, these grifters were just putting this information out. Sil Abdul, Geekosity, Lightcast, and so many more were saying these things because they wanted your attention, your clicks, your views on YouTube, so they can make a quick buck. And it's happening again now. But then we get to the Snyder of it all. Because let's be honest here. Snyder is a master marketer, and he knows what he's doing. He knows how to tease his fan base, spark hype, and keep engagement high, especially when he has a new movie to promote. Grifters know that also, because they dangle off of hope, they profit off of stirring drama, they profit off of emotional investment. Snyder, like the grifters, are playing the fans like a damn fiddle.
They played us like a damn fiddle!
Just like they did in 2020 and 2021. Because it works. Every like, every repost, every comment fuels their revenue. The grifters and Zack Snyder's. Is a SnyderVerse comeback possible? Sure. Is it happening because of these people? No. Not even Snyder. As of right now, no, it's not. And here's the thing. If the stars align, if a buyer decided it was financially smart, if the actors were available, if the timing worked and Snyder wanted to do it, a continuation could happen. Again, never say never. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say we can say never. Like, again, I say it's not going to happen because I don't see how it all lines up. But the likelihood of that scenario lining up is far smaller than people want to believe. But Slav, Zack Snyder is sharing DCEU photos. He's sharing photos that he took on the set of his movies. Okay? But Slav, the Arab nations are pitching in money, and Zack has connections to Saudi Arabia. Okay, that's not that big of a deal. First off, he could just share those photos because he's making a movie called The Last Photograph. Interesting. Sharing photographs on a photo-heavy social media website. Getting people talking about photos for helping him promote a movie called The Last Photograph. And then the Saudi Arabia thing is relatively new over the last few weeks. And sure, he has connections with them about making a UFC movie. Just because they like him and they may be investing in a buyout of Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't mean they'll have any say in what gets made there at all. Like I mean, you have to keep that in mind. So take a deep breath. Stop planning your celebration dance in a closet. Stop acting like you're already won some kind of lottery. Hope is fine. Hype is fine. But delusion, that's how you get hurt. If the SnyderVerse was to return, as long as it's not at the expense of the DCU, then great. Celebrate. Enjoy it. I'll be right there with you, breaking down every frame scene by scene. But until a new owner actually signs a contract and then evaluates the IP library, reviews revenue projections and decides, yes, this is worth our money. It's all noise. But stay hopeful. But stay grounded. Hollywood's unpredictable. But math usually wins. Take it easy, everyone.